Hi, and welcome to the Growth Advantage podcast. Today, I'll be speaking to Lloyd Ripley-Evans, Head of Clinical and People Excellence at Plumm, an all-in-one HR solution with hands-on mental health support. It's great to have you here today, Lloyd. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Rebecca. Great to be with you. Looking forward to the
Brilliant.
conversation.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to speaking to you. I'd love to get started, if it's okay, by asking you to tell me a bit more about the business and your role within it.
Sure. So, once again, thanks very much for having me. And as you've already said, my name is Lloyd Ripley-Evans, the Head of Clinical and People Excellence at Plumm. So my role sits sort of right at this sort of intersection of mental health and organizational culture and growth. So I come from a clinical background, and these days I spend a lot of my time sort of helping organizations really sort of embed people-first strategies that are sort of really both human and high performing, which is very, very exciting. At Plumm, we really believe that when people thrive, organizations do too. I think that's really what we are sort of motivated by. We support businesses across sort of the full spectrum, from mental health services, leadership training, some sort of consultative sort of engagements around strategy, culture design, and so on, all sort of embedded within our full HR suite of services. And underpinning everything that we do is something that we like to sort of integrate into all of our conversations, which is this concept of Thrive. And we built a Thrive framework, which is really our sort of a holistic model sort of for building environments where individuals, teams and businesses can flourish.
Fantastic. And obviously building a happy team is going to create a positive workplace and enable the business to thrive, I imagine.
Absolutely. There's such a knock-on effect, and really just seeing organizations, individuals and teams has been so interconnected. It's incredible the positive impact we can have when we start to see all these sort of golden threads that run sort of around and within our businesses.
Yeah, fantastic. And could you share your insights on any current market trends and emerging technologies that you're seeing in the space right now? Any recent shifts or developments that you've seen in these areas?
Yeah, I think we're seeing more and more organizations, I think, moving a little bit more sort of from sort of performative well-being to more embedded strategies of well-being in organizations. I think there's been a lot that's happened over the last few years that has really sort of driven quite a significant shift. And it's quite amazing to see how deep the shift is actually sort of going. Organizations aren't just trying to sort of offer the support through, meditation apps or EAPs anymore. I think what's really sort of shifted is organizations seem to be asking for deeper questions about leadership, about psychological safety, and I think how people can really feel sort of like they can thrive and really sort of find their space in the workspace. I think the knock-on effect of that is quite significant because people are asking more around well-being and just sort of a more holistic perspective within the workspace. There's such a knock-on effect in terms of the policies that are created, the way people are managed from an HR perspective, onboarding individuals, building the culture, and just sort of working quite differently with people. There's definitely quite a shift that's taken place.
Of course. And are any of these technologies making it easier to operate for you right now, would you say?
Well, I mean, we can absolutely talk about AI, which I think would be an anomaly if we didn't speak about AI. So AI is absolutely changing the game. I know that this can sometimes scare a lot of people, the idea of robots and computers sort of taking over the world. I am a huge advocate for using and embedding tools, technologies and AI to really help simplify, streamline, and just what we do and how we do it. My team will attest to this. They bear the brunt of all the excitement that I have for AI. Using these new technologies for the right reasons can really create such an incredible shift. I often say that using some of these tools, using AI, it just helps to free up ourselves and our own sort of minds and our own sort of mental capacity for the things that we need to be focusing on. In the HR space, one of the things we're really trying to do through our platform is to simplify the HR space so that people can focus on the people again.
Yes, of course.
There's so much admin, and actually we waste so much time doing unnecessary tasks and repetitive tasks and so on. So there's incredible sort of progress that we're seeing across the board, using these different technologies just to streamline and really just give people back capacity.
So it sounds like you found a good balance of how to use it to take off those onerous tasks, giving you that focus on what's really important. So that's, obviously a really good balance to have.
Yeah.
And what key challenges would you say that the HR industry is currently facing, and how are these impacting your business operations or your strategy?
Good question. And I think one of the biggest challenges that I see from my perspective is sometimes a values gap, where companies' sort of stated mission doesn't often match the people's lived experience sort of the culture in that organization. And that sort of dissonance sort of can often lead to disengagement in organizations, distrust, and all of these contribute to those the unfortunate sort of burnout that seems to be very prevalent. And it's not always intentional. I don't think it's sort of ever really intentional. It's often just due to sometimes legacy systems, outdated HR models or policies that just haven't really caught up with the modern workforce. And I really think this can have such a negative impact. But it's also something that can be, in theory, quite simple to shift and change. I think the impact on the organization driving that unfortunate and the impact of that, on team morale and productivity can be quite significant.
And how hard do you find it to attract and retain high-quality team members to the business?
Well, I think attracting great people is I think sort of much easier when you've sort of built a culture worth staying for.
Yes.
If your values are lived, if your people feel heard and respected, then the sort of reputation spreads. And I think we've seen this. Every organization goes through their ups and downs when it comes to this. But I think in terms of attracting and retaining quality team members, it really comes down to the experience that individuals can have in the organization.
Yes.
We internally, in terms of our team, I think collectively we feel from within our exec space that we've probably got one of the strongest teams that we've ever had at the moment, which is really
amazing.
Incredible. It's really because there's a significant amount of trust. There's a lot of autonomy to kind of get on and do things.
Yes.
There's a lot of sort of buy-in and understanding, and just a very collaborative approach, which I think really goes a long way. So I think in terms of attracting, it's really sort of what you put out there. And it's not just in the job descriptions. It's sort of in the brand of the organization and the teams themselves.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what you're delivering for your clients. So, of course, you're going to have it in-house in abundance. So, that I can imagine that it's a really attractive prospect for somebody to want to come and work for you guys. Sounds amazing. And how about attracting new clients right now? What's the landscape like for that at the moment?
Well, I think, it's busy. The HR space as a whole, I think we can all understand and appreciate. It's a fairly saturated space because there's so many solutions out there.
Yes.
So, you've really got to kind of stand out amongst all the names. And, I think that's where Plumm is in quite a unique position, because wellbeing is a growing industry sort of across the world. But many of the offerings are still quite sort of surface level or disconnected. And I think, again, what sort of differentiates Plumm is, I think, the depth and the integration of the well-being and the sort of holistic perspective of an individual. Sort of really just trying to connect the dots and bring it all together. Because we're not just offering sort of therapy or training. We're not just offering HR solutions and sort of that functionality. We're really trying to sort of bridge the gap. From my space in particular, we really try to focus on the individuals, on the people, on the humans. And so when we have conversations, when we do onboardings, when we have implementations, it's really about understanding. Also challenging. Let's sort of not just do it the way it's always been done, and really trying to differentiate ourselves from that perspective to say we're not just another HR solution. We're not just another mental health solution, out there. We really are offering something quite different to try and make your life and your organization's life easier and better.
Of course. And you touched on the fact that it's quite a saturated space. What does that competitive landscape in your sector look like right now? You've mentioned how you're trying to stand apart from that landscape. What does your competition look like?
Yeah, it's an interesting space because, again, there's so many options in the HR space. There's many full service options. There's some very big names. There's some incredible new names coming out. And what can be quite challenging is again, kind of finding where you fit into the whole space. It's like diving into
Right,
an
of
ocean and
course.
trying to find a little island for yourself. Because
Yeah.
there's some, a lot of the solutions will focus maybe on one particular feature or functionality. There's some standalone features and functionality. But what we are finding, and what we hear from a lot of our partners that we speak to, is that people are looking to kind of connect the dots. So it's one of the biggest,
Right.
or some of the biggest issues that the people are facing. Why we actually stepped into the mental health space, or partially why, was because there's so much disconnected data, disconnected
Yeah.
services and functionality. So trying to really kind of bring that all together, consolidate costs, and really just
Yes.
sort of improve the impact of simplified services. So how do you really maximize the output? And that's really what we're trying to do. And again, that's sort of how we're trying to differentiate ourselves from the competition. We're not just another mental health solution. We do this differently.
Fantastic. And how do you let people know that you're out there and what you're offering?
Well, I mean, we've been through various, I suppose, some of the perks of, being a fairly young organization, a startup. We're very excited and eager to be where we're at. With being quite young, we come with a lot of agility and flexibility. And so we
Right.
iterate and we iterate and we iterate. We test, we fail, we test, we fail. And through that, we've been through the traditional sort of marketing. We've been through, we've been around the merry-go-round a few times.
Yeah.
And really, sort of a lot of what we found is it comes down to brand awareness, and not just company brand, but also personal brand.
Yes.
Because people buy from people. People aren't buying from an organization. If you speak to a salesperson and you've got no idea who that person is, it's very cold
Yeah.
and distant. And so we're really trying to sort of personalize or sort of personify rather a Plumm, and really sort of building the sort of brand and the extended brand of Plumm and Plumm's people, so that people can get to know who we are, so that when you engage, when you buy Plumm,
Yeah.
you're not just buying a product, you're kind of sort of buying into a community, you're buying into sort of who we are and sort of what we do, which we are very, very passionate about.
So creating that brand awareness and that familiarity is obviously really, really a key to the business.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Regarding your personal role within the business, what are you responsible for within it? What does a typical day look like for you?
A typical day. I don't think there's anything, I don't think a typical day exists. But so within my space, my department is the Clinical and People Excellence Department. So we look after basically everything that is people related. From
Right.
a clinical perspective, we obviously have all our clinical services. We've got our video sessions, which is facilitated by accredited coaches, counselors, and psychologists across the world. And we've got various mechanisms to support that and support our users through that. We've got other clinical services such as our AI chatbot called Emma. We've got other chat services. We've also got various self-help resources, meditations, soundscapes. We do online events and trainings, CPD accredited trainings. We also create some, various text-based resources, tools, toolkits, infographics and that type of thing, which is all sort of clinically grounded, that we kind of sort of put out and share with our users. The content is obviously a very big space. And from an L&D perspective, we also oversee the content creation that goes into our LMS function.
Right.
And we've got, over 500 different pieces of content that we've created for various L&D topics, from compliance to personal growth and development and leadership and training and innovation and so on. And so sort of overseeing a lot of that. We also obviously manage all of our providers across the globe.
Yeah.
Over about 150 providers across the globe that we also support and manage relationships with. And then obviously looking internally at our own people, supporting our people, processes, procedures, clients internally. So my department is quite sort of holistic. And what I really love is being able to look inwards and outwards. As a psychologist myself, I think it's quite apt, but really supporting our own people, doing the best we can so that we can also help other organizations do the same.
Fantastic. And it sounds like you've got such a wealth of resources there. It sounds amazing. And obviously it keeps you extremely busy. I know you mentioned earlier that some of these titles and other things, eventually you'd like to see them help take some of that admin side away so that you can focus more on the deliverables. What would you say at the moment is taking up most of your time?
It's a little bit of an interesting one right now, because I think right now a lot of my time is spent learning about how to use the different tools, how to streamline processes and efficiencies. So I find it, although it's taking a lot of my time, it's a very exciting time. We've got a lot of internal processes where we are just trying to streamline as much as we possibly can.
Right.
Give back capacity to our own teams. And we've got to sort of live it, that we can give it to our partners as well.
Yes.
So I think that's probably taking a lot of my time, but it's not in a negative way. Besides that, and maybe the sort of precursor to why that's a priority at the moment, is because we do have so much of that sort of repetitive admin sort of thing.
Yes, of course.
That every organization has to deal with. And I think that generally takes so much of our time. Just setting up meetings, having to, I'm sure everybody can relate to this, just trying to schedule a meeting when you've got sort of more than two people. It can be sometimes such a mission, waste so much time sometimes, and not being able to have our tools and our systems and our processes integrated, where you've got to go look in one place to then pull information. I think that used to take so much time, and now we're really trying to sort of connect the dots and bridge those spaces together.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you're going through that process right now, but the end result is going to be really beneficial to the business.
Absolutely. Very, very exciting times.
Great stuff. Regarding the growth of the business, what are the most important metrics for you right now to keep driving the business forwards?
I think obviously sort of new business. And we know that many organizations are struggling at the moment. Money is tight sort of across the board. We know that organizations are really cutting costs, and that a lot of services are being cut and trimmed. So we're really sort of focusing on sort of driving new business, really just pulling in and supporting new clients, and sort of just maintaining the clients that we do have, obviously nurturing those relationships, supporting them, ensuring that they're still obviously getting the quality service and so on. In terms of the sort of the important metrics that we're really focusing on, it's really just sort of watching the numbers, sort of in the in the big pond, so to speak, and just seeing sort of trends. What are people asking for as well? How many partners are asking for certain features and functionality? Those are also some of the key sort of factors or metrics that we're also very aware of, because we want to know, do we have the features and functionality, and if not, how quickly can we have it? Because if we can offer it, then we can give it to them.
Fantastic. And how do you manage and monitor your financial performance?
Interesting question. Again, I think it's being a startup, it's always an interesting space. Nobody sort of really knows exactly what's going to happen sort of one day to the next. And again, I think we've seen that time and time again over the last few years. So, we're trying to just sort of focus on what we can control and what we can manage. There's obviously our product, our features, our functionality.
Yes.
Building the brand, building the awareness, and sort of because of those factors that we can sort of control and focus on, we often see the sort of positive ripple effect of that with regards to sort of the partners coming into the space, maintaining and sort of nurturing those relationships, which, at the end of the day, everything comes down to the bottom line, which we're fully aware of. But we also know that that's to some degree is largely also out of our hands, in terms of, people will buy what they can and what they feel is right. And so as long as we're focusing on the right things, we're going to be attracting the right customers at the end of the day.
Where would you like to see the business in the next, say, 12 months initially?
In the next 12 months, I think obviously seeing quite a significant growth in terms of our presence and awareness. It's been really amazing seeing the Plumm brand popping up in various spaces, over the last sort of 6 to 12 months that we weren't ever present in, and that people are now sort of becoming more aware of us. But I think sort of, really just being able to establish ourselves and really solidify ourselves as doing the HR space, doing this differently, really helping organizations move more from insight into action, really embedding things like the Thrive consultations, the Thrive framework.
Yes.
It's something that it becomes quite sought after because people understand the benefit of it. I think a little bit more long term, really kind of just seeing, a really strong foothold in the HR space. I think everybody in the organization is very much on the same page when it comes to, we want to disrupt the space for the right reasons.
Right.
And I think we shaking the tree in some spaces. I think so in the next sort of 12 months and beyond, really just to continue shaking the tree. Because if we can do things better, if we can do things differently, then why aren't we?
Yes, of course. And on that note, what strategies or initiatives have you implemented to achieve those business goals, and what's proven effective or even what's proven less effective that you've tried and tested?
Interesting question. I think, again, coming back to the fact that we're in the fortunate position to be quite flexible and agile. So we test,
Yes.
we trial, and we absolutely embrace failure. It's part and parcel of success. It's the steps and the stepping stones to success. So in terms of our way forward and sort of in terms of achieving the goals, what we do is just listen to what our partners are saying. If something's not working, if it's not working the way that they need it to work, we jump on it immediately. We try to have an incredibly quick turnaround if there's any issues or challenges, because, well, nobody's got time to waste.
Yes.
If something's impacting one user or one provider, is going to be impacting sort of all of them. So we really just listen. We have a lot of sort of engagements, lots of meetings, lots of feedback mechanisms, so we get as much. The more we can learn, the better. And that's probably been our biggest asset as we move forward. The HR space is also an incredibly complex and nuanced space. And what we found,
yes, I can imagine.
We build an incredibly robust feature which works perfectly for one client. We sign up a new client and they say it doesn't work for them at all. And so every partner has their very specific needs and use cases. And so as we've sort of stepped forward, we've just learned more and more and more. And every day we're learning. And I think that's probably one of our greatest assets or strengths. It's just being able to listen, internalize it, and sort of turn it into something that can help us, offer an even better product at the end of the day.
Great. So it sounds like you're really good at problem solving and adapting and creating bespoke products that work for individual companies and clients, which is obviously a fantastic approach. I can imagine that sort of takes some time, but then people know that they're getting something that's really made specifically for them and their needs, which is amazing to hear. Rather than sort of a one-size-fits-all product, which obviously wouldn't necessarily work for, like you've said. So that's great.
Absolutely.
And finally, is there anything else, Lloyd, that you'd like to share about the business, where people can find you, any events that you've got coming up or anything else at all?
Yeah, so absolutely. I think our LinkedIn is quite an active space, whether it's our company page or my own page or some of my colleagues. We are generally posting quite a lot. We actually had a live event earlier this week that was live streamed on LinkedIn. We've been trying to do quite a bit more engagement. So if you're new to Plumm or you want to learn more, you can just give us a Google at heyplumm.com. You can check out the website, and then also just keep an eye on our socials on LinkedIn for any upcoming events. If you're a channel partner, if you're interested or sort of in the market for exploring new options in terms of supporting your people, sort of look us up, get in touch. We can jump on a call and really see how we can help you do things differently.
Fantastic. And I really hope people do take you up on that, Lloyd, because it sounds like such an amazing venture. And we really do wish you every success for the future.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rebecca. It's been fantastic chatting to you and it's just been in this time here.
It's been lovely having you on the show. Thanks very much, Lloyd. Bye.
Thanks, Rebecca. See you soon. Bye.